Hi everyone, I am Alex Harper, the founder of Women of Culture, which is an organization designed to connect, empower, and inspire women through meaningful engagement with the arts. And this is an edition of Women of Culture Wednesdays where I speak with different artists about their work and process. And today I'm super excited to be speaking with an artist duo. They're actually a mother and son duo who will be joining us from Detroit, Michigan. So the wonders of technology, bringing them here to us. And their names are Linda Schinkel Rodney and Theodore Schinkel. So I'm going to bring them on. Should be joining in just a second.
All right, let me back up a little bit. How's it going? Very good.
You guys.
You're doing well. Glad.
Yeah, it's always hard to get a good camera angle.
Well, yeah. Well, also too, not knowing exactly what the aspect was going to be before this, but
the two of us.
I think we got it settled in pretty good now.
Okay, now I can see you. It's perfect. You have a beautiful background.
Yeah,
yes,
of course. What's in the back? You know, we had to put our work in the back, right?
Yeah, of
course.
That we did.
Awesome.
Oh, great,
wonderful.
Well, I'd love if you guys would introduce yourselves in your own words and just tell people who you are, people that don't know you, and something. I'd love to hear something that people might not know by looking at you.
Sure thing.
Absolutely. So one of the things that
who are you?
I think, but she introduced us. Okay, Linda. I go by Linda. Linda Schinkel is what I use for my work, and my name is Linda Schinkel Rodney. And so we work in a studio in Detroit, which is where we're at. And I actually was born just down the street, just almost like a stone's throw away from where I was born. And then my parents met just a few yards away from that on an island, a little island that we have. It's our little Central Park. It's called Belle Isle.
Oh, cool.
And Frederick Law Olmsted, who did the landscape architecture for Central Park, also did it for Belle Isle.
Yes.
I didn't know there was an island in Detroit. That's so fun.
Yeah, isn't that fun?
No, it's an island that kind of sits in between, Canada and Detroit, and it's about, what is it, like 3.5 miles by about like a half mile, wide. So I mean, it's a pretty, sizable space.
So the Detroit River, okay. So we're on the east side. That's where I was born. Our studio and showroom, it's on the east side,
2 blocks away from the river.
Yeah, so
pretty close to what we're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, and so the Detroit River separates Windsor, Canada, from Detroit, Michigan. And Detroit, I guess, is the only United States city that is north of Canada. Isn't that interesting? Windsor, south of us. Yeah. Wow. And so then there's a couple islands. Actually, it's beautiful by air. There's a couple islands, Harson's Island, a few islands anyway. And Belle Isle is one of the largest, and it's a park, and you can get to it by a bridge.
Yeah, or people take boats and things there.
And that's where my parents met.
Oh,
yeah, and I was born not too far from that, and there's our space.
That's the whole full circle thing about it. And my name is Theodore Michael Schinkel. I am Linda's eldest son, and there's a couple different things that maybe that looking at me may not know. What I would say, I guess what we'll go with is that I cook probably about 95% of my own food. So as far as, very much utilize, the deep freezer. And this was kind of what I was doing, pre-COVID. So when COVID, came around, I was like, well, yeah, I got this. But that's why it was good to have certain reserves, not quite enough, toilet paper and paper towel. That was, nowadays I know to keep things a bit more stocked in those regards. But
the food thing, it really is. It's because of economics for one.
Yeah.
And health for two.
Well, yeah. Trying to use all organic products. like chicken, to buy organic chickens at a cost, twice or three times as much. So I mean, yes, but it's all you know you call optimum performance or what's ideal. So trying to have best cost per best quality combination, and that's something that probably it definitely happened. We did a bit of cooking together probably in pre-pandemic, but during, that's when we kind of together took on this cooking our own food.
But he was cooking
kind of
all,
thing.
he was cooking his meals way before that.
Yeah. You go out a bit more than I do. I probably I don't know. I probably need to get out more, to be honest. But that's it's a different thing.
Well, as artists, you're always working, on your own, right? So it is, it is a bit, isolated, and we do tend to work a lot. So
Yeah.
So you got to remember make time for that. And now, I mean, it's now it's if it's kind of like a toss up to do something. I think you're going to more so lean to the favor of going to do something now that things are opening back up. You don't have that excuse. So there'll be I could have done this plenty of times. No, you
So
couldn't have.
saying that, though, a sort of a blessing of COVID, one of the really cool things, though, is it did give us more time to work.
Yeah.
Because you find that there's always all these interruptions, right? Because,
Right.
just, I don't know, life and people and
Well,
obligations
more
and-
time. I mean, to
Yeah.
work, but also to get organized. I know, like a lot of people, even us. I know went through the basement and kind of going through the boxes and just getting things together. I know just for our business, we did a lot of that too. Particularly for myself, digitally, kind of come up with a system. Now things are backed up, and that and that's something that
you never have time for.
well, you never have time for. Also, you don't hear about enough. That can be quite a big undertaking if you kind of let things go unchecked for a bit. So timing on that worked out.
Right. Well, so you guys felt you were like productive during
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And so one of
Yeah.
the cool things that we're doing is, so the space that we have, it actually is the oldest brick dwelling in the city of Detroit.
Oh,
The
wow.
city actually used to own the property, and anyways, built in 1840, so it's old. It's not that old, but it's all these little handmade bricks. So Christopher Maras was from France. He came over, built the property, and it's still standing. And we're in the process of renovating that, which of course is a big job.
Yeah.
And one of the things we were thinking in this renovation is that we wanted to have some artwork in our bathroom. So that's what led to this new development that
Oh yeah.
we have.
Well,
that we're pretty excited
things
about.
take a little more time, and then there's it's like what spurs, or what gets the gears turning, so to speak, on trying to just come up with a particular idea, but also just innovate in creating something that's new and different. I mean, kind of like the piece behind us again. This kind of mixed media metallic sculpture mixed with photography and other and other digital elements. That took us a good couple years, and then we were kind of in the throes of doing that. Then when kind of we had COVID came around, we had this pause again. A lot of time for reflection, and in particular, as we said, we were trying to figure out, okay, how do we want to put a piece of art in the bathroom? Well, if we put a piece of art in your bathroom, then it's like, okay, you want to light that, but then you want to light the sink, and then you want to have a mirror to go in there. And so the idea that came up said, why don't we go ahead and make the art piece the mirror itself? And so that got us thinking. So and now what we call it is a metallometer is the name that we're going with, and that is like this metal stylized piece behind us, but then with a layer of a mirror. So that would be like a sheet of glass and a partial mirror in front of it. And even right now, we're just putting the final pieces together as far as like framing and finishing and what have you. But But yeah, again, a new development that
They're really pretty cool
yeah.
because it's the metallogram that we do, which really we call it two-dimensional sculpture, which is an oxymoron, right? Because sculpture is not supposed to be two-dimensional, but we work with the metal in a sculptural way.
Mm.
So the two-dimensional sculpture, it doesn't necessarily need to be printed. See, we do a lot of the printing, and then we started going toward, we wanted to show more of our metal work. The piece behind us is an old piece, so it doesn't show just the metal work, and people, yeah, you can see some of it, of course, and then with the mirror that works with it. So that's why it's really quite unique.
Oh, cool.
Mhm.
So you were doing the metalgram before COVID, and then this sort of.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the
Got it.
metallogram we really started in 2012.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, I
Yeah.
would say yeah. 2012. Well, yeah, it was. We kind of debuted the prototype, if you will. That was at
Mhm.
Art Expo.
Mhm.
That was in the spring of 2012,
That's
right?
right. Yep.
And then from there, we kind of refined some things, and then like the finished piece is pretty much, they're a little bit different now, but pretty much as they are now. That was at the very end of 2012, and that was at Red Dot, so one of the satellite shows for Art Basel Week down in Miami. So,
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we were in Red Dot at during Art Basel Week, which was very exciting. That was in 2012.
Yeah.
yeah, and that kind of got things going, and from there, and from to LA, and then
And then we won a
And,
a very nice award in
Mm.
Beverly Hills, California, Best of Show for Art, Innovation, and Design.
Cool.
And then we thought we really had something, but then we really did, because it was like 250 artists and we didn't know a soul. And when we won that kind of put us on the map. Sometimes you need to make a name elsewhere to be recognized at home.
Yeah.
So that kind of put us on the map here in Detroit. So then Cranbrook, and maybe some of your listeners, and you probably have heard of Cranbrook, they have an MFA degree. They also have a whole campus with a museum, a science museum, and K through 12 education,
Right.
and and the art museum, and so then we were invited to do a collaborative piece for the science museum, because they like to have art science interventions, and it was the first time that we did a collaborative piece. And how the collaborative piece came about is they had funds in their budget for some collaborative work, and they could see, because when we were at that show in Beverly Hills, California, we had the blank metal, and we often, when we would do shows, we would show people what we do, and we would invite them to participate.
So we would have like a sample piece of metal, let's say, in our display, and a couple of the basic tools that people could write their name or do like a little design, and then we saw how engaging that was. So taking that and the idea of crowdsourcing, or kind of collaboratively working with a group on a piece, then that was the first iteration of that, and it was interesting. We only had about was it 2 hours or so to work with all the participants, and for the museum they shut it down, and it was a day with the Kids Kicking Cancer. I'm not sure.
Which is a charity. Yeah, it's a charity for minors that have survived cancer, and a lot of these kids were still very compromised, bald, and they shut it down with their families because of their because they are compromised. And the kids loved it, the parents loved it, the parents were doing it too. And so we had about 2 hours with them to cycle through a group, and they were like from ages 2 to 20, so it was a really broad band. And that piece now is currently installed. So then they gave us complete design control, and the piece is actually 11 feet by 5 feet, 5 feet high, 11. So it's a big piece, and around the perimeter, you could see the kids' work. And their one condition is that they wanted the kids to be able to come back to be able to identify the work. And we realized too how much we enjoyed working with others, and we knew the energy of working with others at the shows when we'd have our art out, and we were trying to figure out how can we do more of this.
The engagement.
Yeah. So then from there then we went to another private school. Then we got a very big commission, which we worked with all 120 of their middle school students.
Middle school students. That was a bit more. We were the artists and residents, and that was a bit more involved. So a bit of a contrast from having a couple hours, to work with a range of kids. And then
These kids are actually art students.
the art students in middle school, but still,
Yeah.
so it was a different situation, and it was definitely a bit more involved with what they were doing. Each one were kind of in charge of it. Was over 100 pieces, ended up being over a 30-foot mobile. So if you can imagine like this metal piece behind me, but if it was 5 rows of these vertical panels, and each of
dual-sided,
and each of those rotate independently. So this big kind of, and it's wrapped around this 3-story spiral staircase
in the center of the school,
which is the main, I guess
focal point, really,
focal point,
of the
yeah,
school.
of the middle school, yeah.
Yeah.
And again with that, I mean, like anything, installation, is a big part of it, but also too, still trying to, work with, that many, kids, trying to be, cover some ground, but also to not make it, too complex. I think we learned a lot about too is how to, you don't want to have too many options, and we
learned a lot about of working with others, and then we said, okay, so we've got this. So we said, okay, we're gonna donate our time and the materials, and let's do this in Detroit. And so then we were invited to participate at a school, like one of the, in the center of Detroit. It's called Detroit Central. It was called Detroit Central Collegiate Academy at the time. Now it's Detroit Central. It's one of the oldest schools in Detroit, high school.
First private,
high school.
First public school.
I think so.
Like that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a beautiful campus. Yeah. But it was one of these that, we had to go through metal detectors.
Well, it was one of the worst performing test score wise.
Yeah.
And the reason we were there was with a different charity that we since had some connection to locally, is Beyond Basics. And what they do is through a curriculum, maybe it be something similar to I know I myself, I'm dyslexic, so I know a lot of the basically the things that you kind of teach and the different lessons and regimen that you go through is very similar to that of dyslexia.
Yeah, it's the Orton Gillingham method. They do use the dyslexia method to teach these
kids. And it's basically just to get kids middle school, high school up to grade level reading and literacy, really. And then also too, they've gone to doing adults as well. It's a little bit different. And they've been doing
they're doing really well. They're now in all the high schools in Detroit.
Yes.
But what they have is they have an art enrichment component, and that's where we were in the art enrichment component, because it's voluntary for these kids to go to these classes. Mm-hmm. So if you're a poor reader, if you below grade level, your teacher can recommend you, but you don't have to attend. So in order to get the kids buy-in, they try to give them some things that they think they might enjoy.
Yeah, and also to a lot of these schools, I know things have changed a little bit more. They've instituted more art and music classes, but at that point in time,
there was nothing.
There wasn't too much.
There was nothing in Detroit. Yeah. So and so the kids loved it. We had an intern from the school that we just come from, which was Detroit
Country Day.
Right, and that intern was amazed at. She's like, these kids are just like us, the way they took to the work, and they were coming, during their whatever breaks, and we had snacks and stuff. So the engagement
thing was with those kids. It took a little bit longer to get them, interested. But once you can see that connection made. It's again,
they loved it.
Stimulating across, different, ages and individuals.
And so much research shows that if you have flow in one area, it's going to follow over. It's going to follow over, and you're going to do better in your schoolwork. So that that engagement is so important. And and so we did that with kids. And so we said, okay, so what would be great is what are we going to do with this art? So we said, well, let's see if we can just give it to the city and give it to the mayor's office, which we did. And the city was so thrilled about it, they made a video about us. So the video's on the website,
YouTube page.
Yeah, and still in the mayor's office.
Yeah.
So people will meet us, and we'll ask them if, people know when they see it because it's right. It's in you walk into the lobby. It's in like center stage, right behind the sofa.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
It's been there since 2015.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was and that's one thing I know. Certainly when COVID came around, we had a couple of, these, collaborative projects kind of, lined up, and those things, went away. And right now we're in the midst of, again, nothing set in stone, but a couple of, things are moving in the right direction to get back to that. And yeah,
Because,
exciting.
we love doing individual work, but we really love working with others. And that's why we started a charity, our Conceptions Connect, our charity. And COVID hit, that's what one of the projects we had was getting ready to use that. And with COVID, so, it was just so hard for nonprofits to get any money. We just, we didn't even try.
Yeah, so that's, we still been waiting to fully kind of launch and debut that. But once, once things are in the right place,
we're ready to go.
We're going to be.
We've got it. You've got the 501c3. So.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell us more about that Conceptions Connect and what that is?
Sure. Yes. I mean, well, so again, it's so kind of like we just described. We talked about these crowdsourcing projects, and just to get a little bit different, of an idea. So in making one of these, metallogram pieces like behind us, there's a lot of different layers and a bunch of different steps. And like, for example, when we did it with Kids Kicking Cancer, we just had stencils that were kind of, pre-cut out with different like dinosaurs and bugs and, that type of thing. And so therefore you can, cover, some ground, quickly. Whereas when we did the Detroit Country Day piece, we had a, pre-made, design, and we had a little bit more time and used some more tools and let the kids kind of follow our design, then add some little bit own of their flair. And we
used some tracing paper. We used, so we came up with our design, and the kids used some, but then they could add to it.
Yes, and just doing these projects, just seeing how it's not just the connection from the individuals that also help make the work. It's the connection of is what other people see themselves in the other group members that we collaborate with on these projects.
So we could see that really happens when people work on our work, work together with us, and so that's why we named it Conceptions Connect, because really our work is all about connections. Connections with nature, with the environment, with each other, with the universe. And we feel that really a lot of the problems that we all experience is because we don't feel connected. We feel disconnected. And so, helping foster and empowering and engage will help bring these conceptions connected, because when you feel like you have something in common with people, then you do see, we are connected, we are one. So that was one good thing I think about COVID is people did understand more how we're connected with the world.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's the shared traumatic experience, right? And that's something that now everyone has and everyone has together. Again, it's not always going to result in this understanding, but I think it's something
it was difficult for us too, because we were scrambling.
Well,
how are we gonna make ends meet?
Well, again, the area where we were really making way was with doing some more commercial work, like like large pieces in lobbies and things like that. And that's one area where the money definitely dried up, was in the commercial space, like particularly for art and things like that.
People were just worried about getting by, not looking at anything to add.
Yes, but that made us kind of focus more so on the individual collector aspect, and kind of added more momentum for us for figuring out this new metallogram mirror product. And also too, from those metallogram mirrors, I've been working on getting into, and we're about to launch the storefront, is for some Schinkel fine art metallogram NFTs, so non-fungible tokens. So like, if I can you know what, I think I can show a video yeah, it's our own video on Instagram. Let me see how it is. But really, it's just the metal work through, you know, and what we talk about with our artwork is that it's very interactive with lighting. So as the light conditions change throughout the day, our work looks different as well. But then with controlled and theatrical lighting, if you will, and then using a layer for let's call it, you know, digital art and some kind of, you know, animation on top of all of that, it makes for a rather interesting combination, and kind of falls in line with this with these mirrors that I've been talking about. So let me just see. Here, where's my video? Oh, there we go. So you can kind of see what's going on there.
Oh, wow.
It's a little bit overexposed for
So
how the
that
camera
fist
is.
that you're looking at, so
Mhm.
it's a sculpture. It's in Hart Plaza, which is a plaza in Detroit. It's 24 feet, so it's a huge bronze, and it was for Joe Louis's fist, and it's referred to as the fist.
Okay.
And
Mhm.
so then I don't know if you can see it. We did the work on the metal,
And
and then
kind
there's
of-
the
I know-
scales of justice. I don't know if you can see that.
Well, there's a scale that we add into there, but also
You see
too,
that?
and then
You see, we have
we'll post a video, a link to it on
Okay.
our Instagram. We'll make it a bit easier. But again, but seeing how the you know, this, you know, I guess partial digital and mixing with the lighting, you know, on our artwork is something that we've been thinking about and working on for a while. And so now it's in feeling, you know, the synergy of it all, how this, you know, this new, you know, partially digital from something that's physical work just falls in line within the mirror pieces that we're working on, and you know, building on the metallogram work, which we already you know, are in the process of. So yeah, it's exciting to, again, it's having some new things that, you know, are certainly, you know, invigorating, but also too, and how it works so well with a lot of the work and things that we've done before. So that's exciting.
It is.
Yeah, I love it. I'd love to like backtrack a little and just learn, how did you guys even start creating art and like creating art together? Like, were you artists separately? Did you, you know, how did this all start?
Well, so if we go way back, you know, to the
How
beginning, I
far-
mean, he
how
is my
far back?
son.
Yeah.
So he's, you know, he said he had the dyslexia, and he also had communication challenges. And so one thing that we did ever since he was little, really little, like 18 months, is we'd create art together.
Oh.
And I have this work. This is really how he communicated. And I mean, it was his ability to read was diagnosed as so low that he qualified to learn Braille.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember it was a second grade or so. We had the, you know, cassette player. You put in the cassette and you could like follow along. But you'd follow along the words actually, you know, in Braille. We didn't try that for too long though.
No, because the cool thing was, so he had a lot of one-on-one, both privately and the public school was great. They said, all his teachers were amazed. They said, this child has such focus. He wants to learn. So once we were able, you know, to tap into that, and they worked with art with him too.
Mhm.
So
Basically, so when our artistic, you know, relationship kind of started, you could say it goes back, you know, so far, and even during this time, you know, also the you know, the visual arts were always a big thing, but the performing arts, you know, as well. I know whether it was, you know, just, you know, theater, musicals, opera, you know, the symphony.
I exposed him to all this because I loved it,
Yeah.
and I had been exposed to it too. And I had two sons, and I'm like, I need to expose them to what I love. Well, with him, he loved it. His brother, not as much.
Yeah.
Not as much. But I mean,
Exactly.
people would be amazed. Here he's a 5-year-old going to the opera, and he's on the edge of his seat.
Wow.
They're like going, "Oh my God, this, you know, this kid is into it."
Yeah. I mean, and then also too, you were Painting. I know that was always a hobby. You would, when you could fit things in. You have a canvas,
They always
working
remember
on that.
watching me paint.
Yeah, and then myself kind of, and then also too, you studied photography when you were at U of M, right? That was,
Right. Yep.
one of the things.
Yep.
And then, for myself, again, I wasn't so much, focused on, arts in the conventional way. I know probably it was in high school is where I really got into video production. So understanding, putting together, whether it be, certain skits or just, doing a lot of different things, with video. And so that's kind of where what I ended up going to college for. I went to Denison University, which is about a half hour east of Columbus in Ohio, but a small liberal arts school. But I actually double majored in cinema and economics, which is a bit of an interesting combination. Not a whole lot of
But it
classes.
runs in our family because my father was an accountant, but he was also a musician, and his love really was his music.
Yeah.
And my mom made jewelry.
But again, now where we are, it's, understanding that, to.
Oh, we just lost your audio. Oh, I can't hear you guys. Can you hear me? I can't hear you. Can you hear me? Because I can't hear you. It's always something with technology. It's so weird. It just dropped off like all of a sudden. Hmm. I wonder if you guys want to like go and come back. I don't know if that would work. Okay, yeah, that works. Or you could try calling from like a different phone or like not calling, but Anyways, can give that a try. I'll hang out here. Okay, we're just having some technical difficulties, but hopefully we'll get Linda and Theo back in a minute. Still want to hear more about how they came up with this metallogram process, and so fascinating to have like a mother-son duo. It's pretty unique. So stick around. I'm like,
There we are.
Oh, yay, it's working.
All
Okay.
right. For a while we could
Sorry.
see you, and then we couldn't hear you, and then
I'm glad we're back.
Yeah, yeah, it's always something, technology.
well, yeah,
It's great when it works. When it doesn't work, not so great.
well,
Yeah.
I think it's just when in doubt, just do the reset and just come back into it. Probably should have done that from the get go, but
Okay, so
how it
what we
goes.
were just talking
So I'm
about
sorry. When did you last
working together, right? We were just
hear us?
talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, we were talking about his brother, right?
But how,
Right.
His brother going to Shanghai.
But that was. I
Okay.
think we dropped out before
Okay,
that.
okay.
So, what was the last part that
Yeah,
you
just
remember?
like, yeah, you were talking about like how you were like creating art together when he was a kid, he had dyslexia, and like, helping to that he was always like into art and opera and all of that. So
Yeah. So it really was about a mission that, it's kind of like give the world what you wished you had had. And in terms of potential, I mean, I'd always wanted to be an artist, but I didn't have the confidence in myself because I felt like, I needed to support myself, truthfully. But so then once I started, I was always practicing, but when I could dedicate more time, then I started being in some galleries by 2004. Can you hear? Are you still live?
yeah.
Okay, good. We just don't
Yeah.
see you. That's okay. But and so Ted here, he had worked with these big films, and so his brother's in Shanghai. So we decided to go over to Shanghai to celebrate his brother's 21st birthday. And so his brother was working in the internship and very studious about it. So he would be working during the day, and Ted and I would go hang out and we'd photograph, and we really did a lot of
Well,
exploring.
you just got your new Nikon
Okay.
DSLR
Okay.
with a bunch of lenses and what have you, and myself being just working on film sets again, just kind of being her director of photography, I suppose, just going different parts of Shanghai. Then we took a long weekend with my brother and went over up to so it's a Yunnan province, still
Part of the Tibetan Autonomous Region.
Yes.
That was the cool thing. These Tibetan people
Yeah,
were.
there's a couple very nice photographs that we took from there, and that was very neat. But again, so this that just kind of got the gears turning for
of working
for
together.
us working together.
But still, we didn't think about that.
Well, no. I think then I was like in between, different, jobs and working, in as a production assistant, with films and commercials. There's a bit of downtime in between jobs, and that point in time too, we're talking about 2010. And I know in Michigan at that point in time, that was when a bunch of different states were doing those tax incentives for bringing film production, into their state. And at the point in time, that was a big thing in Michigan. So I was at home, and then my mother, she mentioned earlier that she with her photographs, and then she was one of the first people that would go ahead and take photographs and G-clay them or just print them on a canvas. Again, nowadays that's quite common.
But then I would paint with them too.
But then the early 2000s, and then you would then paint on top of the canvas, which is an interesting precursor for working and on the metal and printing the photograph on top of the metal. It's kind of the reverse way to go about it.
What's
But
so interesting? Yeah, to
fascinating.
me, yeah, and so interesting to me about that is photography. I like it, but I see it more as a tool because I always feel like it's flat. But that's why I wanted to paint with it because I wanted to give it dimension. So that's exactly what we do in our work.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Yeah, so there was a bunch of photographs that my mom had, but post recession, she hadn't really done
The
anything
08
with.
recession. So
08
here we
recession.
were in 2010. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I just.
And a couple of the galleries I've been in closed.
Yeah. So we're in 2010 now, kind of the summer of 2010, and then going to the winter of 2010, and I took a bunch of the pictures that she had that she hadn't done anything with, and went ahead and developed them. I think we just had a couple prints done from Costco, even, and then the very first art show that we did was the Northville Christmas Fair. Which
So he
really
just
is
he had been in Prague, I think, like the year before.
no, it was
He went to school.
07, 08,
Okay.
a couple years before.
Yeah, a couple years before I got to school in Prague and all the Christmas markets he knew about. He's like,
It was a semester abroad.
yeah, right. So he's like, let's do this. I'm like, sure. I never thought he would think I wanted to try to do something together. I'm
And
like,
then she
yeah.
also had the standard 10 by 10 trim line tent. So if you ever go to like the Ann Arbor Art Fair or well, there's a bunch of.
We've been in Montauk,
Any little art fair, any of these street fairs, it's one of those, the same standard tent that you use. So like, well, you have this, let's go ahead and do this show. And again, must have been one of the only things that were considered art there. Again, it's all kind of, Christmassy stuff.
But here, the funniest thing too is we sold pieces. People were so hungry for the work. We sold them before it was even.
Well, it was the first time that we actually sold it was the first time we were showing. We actually sold a piece in the middle of hanging it.
Yeah.
She bought it before we go in and hang on the wall. I mean, that might have been the only time that's ever happened.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was the
The first time.
And then
So there you go, the universe saying, hey, yeah.
but then we were like, okay, and then after the next couple of days, I think we sold like a bunch of small pieces too. But I mean, it was like 30 some pieces. We're like, oh geez, well, all right. And then the next little street fair that we did was in 2011.
Coconut Grove.
No, it wasn't Coconut
No.
Grove. It was the second show. It was a side show.
Okay.
It was. We thought it was so it's one of those
right.
outdoor art fairs where there's one main one and a couple other ones going on.
But it wasn't Coconut Grove.
We thought we were in the
Right,
main
the
one, but we
Coconut
were in one of the other ones.
Right, right.
And that whole experience was a bit of an a rude awakening, if you will, to the Christmas fair that we did. But there's always a learning curve to doing these things, and I know it's kind of interesting that was also too where we kind of started showing and just promoting ourselves, was that we would travel around our state, Michigan, but then do a lot of things in Florida and then surrounding areas, doing these outside and also sometimes inside, but these artists kind of street shows.
So what happened with the metal was
and that was but this was when we were still just doing photography, and we were getting them printed from different places, but then it was when we decided to get our own printer, that was when the quality of the work took a step up, but also too is realization of like, okay, there's more to the process of this.
the whole artistic.
That's the image. It's the whole creation of the piece. And again, we're just talking about getting the printing locked in, and just even the finishing with the gloss or what have you, and then having the right kind of canvas or stretcher bars, or just this framing in itself. And
So we knew we wanted to do more, and so then so Ted said to me, he was like, Mom, what'd you think about creating on metal?
Well, it was
right?
printing on metal.
Yeah.
So this is probably 2011. That this was like a newer thing. Again, something that you see a lot of places now, but back 10 years ago,
It was quite
thing.
expensive, and he's like, I can figure this out, and
let's just try to print it ourselves.
Yeah, and so he got metal that was cheaper. It had been discarded because it had been
Well, it'd been pre-used on a job. It was extra cut sheets or like panels that had been already used. So it's like, okay, I'll go ahead and just use that. And some of them had some kind of like patinas from either some like road salt or from some different kind of things going on. And it was really interesting. So on the first couple pieces that I did, if there was some abrasion or some kind of I guess just etching, if you will, I would try to get rid of that and try to make the whole piece neutral. And it was after showing the first couple of these metal pieces at some different shows, the feedback we got was that that blemish in the corner is kind of, neat, but it might, be better looking if you took that and had it, throughout the entire piece of metal, not just in one corner trying to to hide that away. Instead, pronounce it.
So again, it was crowdsourcing. People helped us see
Yeah.
where we wanted to go.
Yeah, and then it's like, okay, if that's,
We totally agreed. I mean, I
it
remember
works,
I remember we liked it. We were just trying to figure out what was good, and
yeah.
I think
So
it was
it was
Petersburg, was in St. Petersburg, Florida. Was that show in the
uh,
shadow of the Dali Museum? Anyway,
Yeah,
yeah.
but anyways, so it was again just kind of this natural progression, and again, it's not something that we just kind of set out to become artists or working together. It was something that was kind of just
Kind of
we had
natural.
interest in,
Yeah.
and just was like, okay, is there enough there to keep going with this, to take a step forward? And whenever that was like a question or toss up, I was leaning the way to keep going. And
Yeah, it always seemed like something would happen that would say, okay, we can do this.
yeah, and even now with a couple of
Potential projects we can't really
projects, but
discuss
but
them,
not just
but
even that, it's just
Yeah.
just development.
Yeah,
Again, it's kind of
like with the NFT
saying, okay,
and
things are making making more
headway.
sense. It's
Yeah.
like it's not all round holes and square pegs.
Yeah.
The pieces actually do fit.
yeah.
So as long as they fit and it works well enough, keep going with it. So
And so we really do feel that just looking at our work, and at some shows we were blown away by the way people would engage with the work. I mean, I was just amazed. I remember one show, and we had theatrical lighting working with our pieces then, and music. Ted did a set of music to go with the work, and there's these group of women, like middle-aged women, and one just started crying, in a good way, and she came back and she just said, "This is just so moving." I'm like, wow.
Cool.
yeah, no, that was I remember that was. Well, that was the first time we actually. So this was in 2013. The fall of 2013, and it was so that was an art prize. So it takes place in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Now it's a biannual thing, but it was billed as, and it was. I'm not sure if it still is, but it's the largest monetary art competition in the world. So again, it was.
And the people vote.
So it's a public vote and then a juror vote. I know we finished in the top 50, and we weren't quite the top 25.
But we were right on the
If
bubble,
we would've done
almost
things
top
a little-
25.
If we would have done,
Yeah.
if we
Some
done things a little bit
photographers
different.
started showing up, and we're like, "What's
Yeah.
going on?"
Yeah, but
Yeah.
more of the story is just the immersive experience. And again, this is kind of a trend you see across art and plenty of other things.
But there wasn't a juror award then, so subsequently now.
Yeah.
But that was when it was just all public award.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
didn't really know what we were doing. We didn't know how you were supposed to work it.
Yeah,
Like,
well,
we had a good buddy got married the weekend.
no, there's a couple of things
we
that we
would've
would have done differently.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know if we were.
Maybe we weren't ready. That's what we think.
Weren't
When
ready.
things don't go, we kind of think, that also is, we're just, we need to develop and, keep
Yeah.
practicing before we're ready.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious, how do you work together? Like, who comes up with the ideas, or is it all totally collaborative, or how does that work?
Yeah, well,
There's oftentimes I'll say, let's look at this, or he'll say, let's look at this.
it's like if there's an area of study that we're interested in, or like the work we do nowadays doesn't entirely all derive from our photographs, but there is like a particular element of a photograph, that we want to utilize, or
Like a good example is we just did one like Moonchild. So we have this magnolia photograph that we love, and we're thinking, how can we develop that to have something that reaches out more to the universe? And so then we combined it, the imagery. So that's what we'll do. We'll work on the imagery. And but what's really cool is that sometimes, I'll say to Ted, well, just develop it. But he always comes back to me and say, what do you think? Or I'm working on some drawings. And then I come back to him. And each time when I come back to him, he makes it better. And I think he feels the same way.
Well, again, it's kind of so again, I have a great idea of design, but again, it's like my mom herself. She's also an interior designer, and again, it's color combinations. Again, sometimes again the feminine perspective on that.
Or just even with the word
fits
too.
better.
Like maybe I was getting busy on this fist piece, and he's like, I'm like, well, you got this. And he's like, no, you're really good with the hands.
Well, in particular. So again, my mother, she's a very skilled painter and also drawer, and I would say those are and so she specialized in kind of the more finer things. What would be, I don't know if you're familiar with the Dremel tool. It was kind of like this handheld little kind of a drill, but again, all these different attachments that you can then put on it, and using that kind of like a paintbrush is really where she specializes. Where my expertise is in using the bigger tools and kind of like the larger textures. And so
this, like an angle grinder. Yes, some of these tools are like really big.
Just looking at this, like drawing, let me see, like that out. She'll draw like that person in by hand, and whereas myself, I have a good idea about which using masks. Like we'll use a lot of like a tape to mask out areas, like
almost like a spray paint.
Kind of like here, kind of like if you were doing like airbrush, kind of like airbrush painting. Again, this is kind of very similar to automotive. Very in the same way. So I'll use the larger tools and kind of create those.
And the mask will help
textures.
you stay in the area where you want the work to be, because those really big instruments are hard to
control. Yeah.
So here he is, with his muscles controlling them.
So that's kind of, and it's that, back and forth thing. And I mean, and it's really our skills really complement each other. And again, it's not, working on something, creative, that, closely together isn't always easy, particularly with a family member, but it's when things are going in the right way. I mean, they can really be clicking. It's really like being in a flow state. Yeah. But when you're not there, it gets a bit more difficult, a bit trickier. So that's why, very, like we've gotten into, particularly I'd say like in this last year, in what leads to personal peak performance, right? And so it's what gets you in your flow state, and then it's like, okay, then that's the time to tackle the the challenging things. And so it's trying to to be more efficient. But I think we're just naturally what we're doing, getting more and more kind of into that space. So yeah, I mean, I'm the last piece we did was great. I know this. We're working on that. We wanted to do this Wonder Woman, influence.
It was something I wanted to do. She's always been,
yeah. So that's the next thing. I'm just doing some final touches on how the one of the layers is going to be. Anyway, so we'll have that on our Instagram soon enough within the next week or so, I would say. But yeah, and again, it's it's always developing and learning new things. But it comes back to just having a good relationship, right? And that's you can say that for anything, and that's kind of the foundation of what we do together.
Yeah, Yeah, that makes sense. We just have a couple more minutes, so I just wanted to ask if you have any shows currently, any projects. I mean, you showed us like the NFT, and then anything else that you want to tell people about before we sign off.
So
Sure.
yeah, we're currently in a show. It's called Art Mile Detroit.
Nice.
And yeah, and we were very excited. So on our website, we have a link to the press release on it, and it's a wonderful presentation because we're able to show the work as well as an additional 4 or 5 images that show parts of the work or up close, which is something that we wished we had on our website. That we know that that's where we will be going in the future.
By the way, so this is a digital show it's about a weekend. It has about 3 more weeks to go, but it's something that's all digital. But you can't reach out to the galleries individual and then go to see the works in person. So one of those kind of digital, half digital, but part in person.
It's sponsored by Red Bull
shows.
Arts.
Red Bull House of Art.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the current show that's going on.
We have a very exciting project that we're going to talk to someone about very soon, but we really aren't at liberty to talk about it.
Oh
yet,
yeah,
so
the collaborative thing.
anyway.
That's still too early in the process. And it's then also too it's renovating our studio. I know we mentioned it in the Ross House downtown, but kind of this immersive experience that we've kind of talked about with our artwork. That's kind of the intent with our space is to create this immersive environment inside and outside of this historic building, and that's not going to be completed anytime soon, but some of the main features should be taken care of. I'd say hopefully maybe thinking early fall. I know it's tough to talk about like construction and things like that right now because resources.
Things are so slow.
I mean,
in Michigan, we had to stop with COVID. We were ready. I mean, everything was scheduled. Construction actually had to stop in Michigan. And so we're just circling back, and now it's so hard to get people to work. But
lumber costs are up and that. But things are working out just how they should.
Yeah, exactly. So. Yeah, but we will have some events in the space before it's actually we feel it's ready. It just has to be a little further along.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll have like a kickoff for our charity.
Yes, that would be kind of the opening and kickoff would be for the charity. So that's
right.
To get that
hopefully that
move along. Yeah. Hopefully.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that you guys are obviously so passionate about being involved in your community and giving back to your community in Detroit. So, you got to get out there and come see work in person.
Oh boy, we love that. We would love that.
That's an idea.
Well, thank you so much. It was so great to learn more about you and everything that you're doing. And I'm really glad to have discovered your work. And I have gotten to meet Linda in person, so
which is great. I loved it.
Yeah, hopefully I'll see you next time you're in the city. Maybe you'll both be in the city, or I'll make it out.
Absolutely, we'll make that happen for sure.
All right.
Great.
Well, thank you so much, and have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Yes,
thank you,
Alex,
so
much for doing this.
And your community. Thank you very much.
Bye.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Bye-bye.